What if you could treat a really complex brain disorder, not with drugs, not with therapy, but with something as simple as light? That's the wild question we're diving into today, right at the intersection of psychiatry and neuroscience.
It sounds like science fiction, right? Using just light to treat a condition as intricate as autism. But, and this is the incredible part, new research is suggesting this might not be so far-fetched after all.
So, our guide on this journey is a psychiatrist named Dr. Stefano Pallanti. Now, he started out in a world that was all about psychoanalysis, But he got pretty frustrated with the treatments that were available. And that frustration, it really pushed him on this quest, away from just philosophical interpretation and toward neurotechnology, looking for real biological treatments for his patients.
Okay, so Dr. Pallanti's on this hunt for real, tangible treatments, and that hunt led him right to one of the biggest challenges in modern psychiatry, Autism Spectrum Disorder.
So, let's just make sure we're all on the same page here. Autism Spectrum Disorder, or ASD, is what we call a neurodevelopmental condition, and it really comes down to two main things: challenges with social communication, and then these restricted or repetitive behaviors.
And right there, you see this huge treatment gap. Dr. Pallanti really hammers this point home. Yeah, behavioral therapies can be effective, but there's this massive hole when it comes to biological or drug-based treatments that actually target those core symptoms. And that's exactly why the search is on for something completely different.
And that search is taking us away from thinking about this only in behavioral terms and toward a really interesting new idea. What if autism is actually rooted in a kind of biological imbalance inside the brain?
Dr. Pallanti has this amazing analogy to explain it. Okay, picture this. Your brain's ability to change and form new connections, that's called plasticity. Think of that plasticity as a beautiful, well-tended garden. Now, the immune system, that's the gardener, carefully pruning things, keeping it all in shape. But, he says, in a lot of people with ASD, there's this overactive inflammation. It's like the gardener goes rogue. And that beautiful garden, it turns into a wild, overgrown forest.
And you can actually see this imbalance when you look at the brain's networks. So you've got what's called the default mode network. You can think of that as the brain's engine when it's just idling. In ASD, that network tends to be way overactive, which makes it super hard to focus. And at the exact same time, the network you need for focused attention, well, that one's often underactive. So it's this constant push and pull, this neurological tug of war happening inside the brain.
Okay, so if the problem is this biological imbalance, too much inflammation, messed up connectivity, then doesn't it make sense that a biological tool could help fix it? And believe it or not, this is where light comes into the picture.
All right, the fancy name for this technology is Photobiomodulation, or PBM for short. Basically, it's a non-invasive therapy. It uses very specific wavelengths of light, usually in the near-infrared spectrum, that can actually pass right through the skull. And the whole idea is that this light energy gets soaked up by the mitochondria. You remember those from biology class, right? The little powerhouses inside our brain cells? And this boost of energy is thought to help calm down that neuroinflammation we talked about and help improve how the brain cells connect to each other.
So you see how this all connects, right? The whole theory comes full circle. The light energy gets absorbed, it helps put out that inflammatory fire, and that allows the brain's gardener to get back to work, tending the garden of plasticity. And the end goal here is to try and rebalance those brain networks that are locked in that constant tug of war.
Okay, so that's the theory. It sounds great on paper, but does it actually work? Well, the early results from some recent studies are, honestly, they're incredibly promising.
The science here has been building up really carefully, one step at a time, like links in a chain. First, they saw it worked in animal models, that PBM could reduce inflammation. That success gave them the confidence to move on to a really important human study in 2018, and that was followed by Dr. Pallanti's own work, plus another key study on adults over at Mass General.
Okay, so let's talk about that 2018 study, because it was a huge deal. The kids who got the actual light therapy showed a dramatic drop in how severe their symptoms were. And the placebo group? Pretty much no change at all. That's a clear, powerful signal that something real, something biological was happening.
Then you have Dr. Pallanti's study. And this one was cool because they used a wearable LED device, something parents could actually use with their kids at home. And what he found was just remarkable. Over 6 months, there was this steady, progressive drop in ASD severity scores. But it wasn't just that. He also saw big improvements in things like attention and sleep quality, which can literally change the quality of life for the entire family.
And get this, these amazing results aren't just for kids. That study at Mass General looked at adults with ASD. And after just 8 weeks of treatment, they also saw significant improvements, especially in social communication, which is one of those core symptoms. This is huge. It suggests that the brain can still change, that its plasticity can be influenced for the better, even in adults.
But maybe the single most impressive number to come out of all these studies is this one, 0. 0. That's how many patients dropped out. What does that tell you? It points to one of the biggest selling points of this therapy. It is incredibly safe and people tolerate it really, really well. And that's absolutely critical when you're talking about any new treatment, but especially for kids. So, okay, we've got this really compelling early data. We've got an amazing safety profile. The big question is, what's next?
Okay, first things first. We have to remember, and Dr. Pallanti is super clear about this, these are still preliminary findings. But man, even though it's early, the potential here is just enormous.
So now, the research is getting a lot more focused. It's moving toward precision medicine. The questions they're asking are things like, can we use a brain scan, like an EEG, to figure out ahead of time who's going to benefit the most from this? Can we customize the light itself, the frequency, the duration, for each specific person? And hey, could this approach also help with related issues like seizures? These are the big questions that are driving the next wave of research.
We started this whole conversation talking about autism, but the implications here are just so much bigger. Think about it. If we can really use targeted light to safely dial down inflammation and rebalance our brain networks, well, the question gets way bigger, doesn't it? Could personalized light therapy become a key tool not just for treating disorders, but for optimizing brain health for every single one of us?